We'd like to go ahead and begin, and would ask that we all rise for the invocation that will be provided by Mr. Rob Young, Crossgate Church. All rise.
Let's pray together. Father, we come to you this evening, and first we just want to thank you for the opportunity to gather. Father, to provide leadership to our community. I want to thank you for these board of directors and for all of the other leadership around this room that provide our city with direction. Father, we understand that many times this position is decisions that are to be made. Some of them are very easy, and then others are not quite that way. And so, God, we ask that you would simply give them direction and wisdom. I pray that you'd help us all understand that really, Father, we need direction from you, that in and of ourselves, Father, we lack everything that we need oftentimes. And so we just pray that we would humble our hearts, humble ourselves before you, recognize you as the author and creator of life, that you knit us together in our mother's womb. And so as a result of that, Father, we come to you and we ask that you would just give that your presence would be felt in a powerful way, that you just give peace, just give wisdom and direction for these folks that serve us. And we're grateful for them, and grateful for all of our city employees and those that provide us care and protection and leadership. But ultimately, Father, we turn to you and we seek your wisdom in all of life. And so we thank you. And during this season, God, we just are so grateful for your love demonstrated to us by the sending of your Son and his birth. And we celebrate that during this time. And most of all, we're grateful for his death and resurrection that provides us forgiveness for our sin. And we're grateful for all that you have done for us. So God, would you work in this meeting tonight, and Father, just provide again our city with a direction that would provide the best leadership and would honor you. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call this meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the last meeting of the year. This is our 22nd meeting of the Board of Directors for 2023. We normally would have a agenda meeting at the end of the year for the first Tuesday in January, but because that lands on, January 2nd, we were going to forego that meeting, and so our first meeting will be an agenda meeting, I guess be the second Tuesday of in the month of January. So we'll begin with a roll call and have Harmony do that. Thank you, Harmony.
Yes, sir. Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Trustee, seconded by Director Webb. All in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of our regularly scheduled meeting of December 5th, 2023. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Director Garcia, seconded by Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have special guests from Little Rock today from the Arkansas Municipal League, Mr. John Wilkerson and Mr. Jack Critcher. And there you have a special award to recognize State Representative Les Warren.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to be back in Hot Springs. I see some old friends. B, good to see you again. Bill, Lance, everybody else. It's a real pleasure to be down here. I'm John Wilkerson. Like was mentioned, I'm General Counsel and Legislative Director of the Arkansas Municipal League. This right here is Jack Critcher, Legislative Liaison. And as our title sort of suggests, we work at the Capitol every 2 years and sometimes in the middle, depending on the situation, trying to work on behalf of the cities and towns of Arkansas. And it's an absolute pleasure of ours to do it for the cities and towns of Arkansas. And we are blessed to be joined by a lot of legislators that are amazing individuals who understand local control, understand what the importance that cities bring, and you here are blessed to have a great one in Representative Les Warren, and we're here to honor him today. Representative Warren has been a longtime friend of the league, a longtime advocate of local control, and I think I just heard him mention that cities are best represented by cities and best governed by cities, and that we need to make sure that we have that control, that local control that we desperately need. I can say this too. I've been at the Capitol since 2015, and Representative Warren was, I think, 2017, if our memory serves. And I can tell you that every time I'm up there, I always wish that I had a chance to work with Representative Warren, because he is, I know everybody believes in him, believes that he is an honest, kind, reasonable, smart, hardworking individual. And fortunately for me, and I mean this sincerely, the highlight of this last legislative session was working with him on a very important piece of legislation that came through his committee, it was a retirement bill. And I was blessed to be able to work with him. And I remember this vividly because I was so excited to have this chance to work with him. And I was not disappointed. I said, hey, we got an idea. He liked the idea. But he didn't say, okay, let's just run with it. He said, let's look at it. Let's make sure we did it right. Questions, he had questions. He pointed me to the right person to talk to make sure that his questions were answered. And he made sure, like I said, to get it right. And that is who he is as a state representative and as a person. And it's really been an honor. And like I said, a highlight of my time in 23 working with him. And now it's a highlight of mine, I think Jack's as well, to honor him in front of all of you tonight. Like I mentioned, you're incredibly blessed to have him. And we want to honor him and his dedication to the cities and towns of Arkansas, and most specifically you, the city of Hot Springs. So with that in mind, I had the Arkansas Municipal League Distinguished Legislator Award in honor of Representative Warren, who's demonstrated exemplary service that benefited the cities and towns of Arkansas during the 94th General Assembly. So on behalf of the League and hopefully on behalf of the city of Hot Springs, Representative Warren, I'd like to present you with this award.
Well, I guess I first like to say thank you to John and to Jack for driving over here. I'm humbled by your presence tonight. I am very honored to get to serve for Hot Springs in Garland County. I love this place. It is something that I've grown to love over 28 plus years now, and I couldn't think of a better place to represent. These guys are great to work with. I always know when they tell me stuff that it is exactly what they tell me. Those are the kind of people you like to work with at the Capitol. But thank you for this award. Could y'all come back in November? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. We have another very special guest, and this guest will be introduced by City Director, District 5, Karen Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my honor and a privilege to introduce a special guest of mine this evening who I am very thankful for. And that's my granddaughter that's out of school the rest of the week and staying with me. Would you rise? Katie Matthews.
Very good. Any other directors have a special guest you'd like to recognize? I know everybody in the audience is very special to us, and we appreciate you being here. With that, we'll go ahead with the city manager report, and they'll be provided directly by City Manager Mr. Bill Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. First, I want to talk about Animal Services. The Hot Springs Animal Services is hosting its annual Home for the Holidays adoption event from 10 to 5 Monday, December 18th through Friday, December the 22nd, with an exception of December 21st, so this shelter will be open from 10 to 7:30 on that day. This half-price holiday adoption event will include half-price adoptions and half-price city licenses and microchips. Due to several generous donors, there are more than 20 sponsored adoptions, so we've got some animals there, at least up to 20, that there won't be any adoption fees. Someone else has paid those for you. So if you're interested in a new pet, please come by Home for the Holidays at the City of Hot Springs Animal Services Department. I want to say a big thank you to Arvest Bank, Arvest Bank Foundation. On December 13th, they presented a check for $15,000 to the Hot Springs Fire Department from the Arvest Foundation. The funds will be used towards the decontamination station, which is part of the fire department's cancer prevention project, and really appreciated them showing up and donating that particular check. Next, we have Christmas in Recovery. This week, the Hot Springs Police Department will be providing Christmas to the Sozo Recovery Center and Harbor House. Catered lunches will be provided to both groups, as well as Christmas gifts that have been donated through the Christmas in Recovery project. Talk a little bit about our schedule coming up for the holidays. All city offices except public safety and the airport will be closed for Christmas holiday on Monday, December the 25th, and Tuesday, December the 26th, and for the New Year's holiday on Monday, January 1st. Solid Waste, their commercial routes will run Monday's route on Saturday, December the 23rd, and resume regular routes on Tuesday. Residential services, including trash, curbside recycling, and leaf and mulch, all of those will run a day late each one of those weeks. For example, Monday's route, if your normal collection day is Monday, it'll be Tuesday, Tuesday on Wednesday, and so forth. The transfer station will be closed on the 25th and 26th and will reopen at 7 a.m. on December the 27th. Commercial routes will run as scheduled on that day. The transportation depot will be closed on Monday, December 25th and 26th, and will be closed in observance of New Year's on Monday, January 1st. The intracity transit bus and paratransit services will run on Friday and Saturday as normally scheduled, but will not operate on Monday, December 25th or January the 1st. Compost facility will also be closed on the 25th and 26th. They'll also be closed on January 1st in observance of New Year's. Garland County District Court and the Probation Office will be closed beginning from 11:30 a.m. on Friday, December the 22nd for staff development, and continue through Tuesday, December 26th in observance of the holidays. Garland County District Court and the Probation Office will reopen on Wednesday, December 27th, and the Probation Office and District Court will also be closed on January 1st. Mayor, that concludes my short
Very good.
report this week. It's
Yeah.
glad to be back.
Well, thank you. Glad to have you. This time we'll consider, Board of Directors of announcements of upcoming events. Directors have any upcoming events? Wow. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. These are of a routine nature. They do not warrant individual discussion, so we'll vote on them en masse. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. At this time, we'll consider Resolution R-23-211. Ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-211, a resolution pertaining to the Position 2 of the Hot Springs Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. That concludes your reading, Mayor, if you would. Entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Dobb-Smith, seconded by Director Webb. Discussion. Mr. Albright will lead the discussion.
Thank
Staff
you.
report.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, the term for Position 2 of the Hot Springs Housing Authority expired on August the 16th of 2023. Arkansas Code annotated section 14-169-208C 2B1, provides that when an office of commissioner expires or any vacancy occurs in the commission of authority, the commissioners shall appoint a substitute to fill the vacancy subject to the confirmation of the governing body. Arkansas Code annotated 14-169-208C2B2 Also provides that if the commissioners fail to appoint a successor within 45 calendar days from the date of the commissioner's term expires or other vacancy occurs, the governing body shall appoint the successor. The Housing Authority Board of Commissioners appointed a successor to position 2, that being Michael Toohey, by its resolution 3250 dated November 20, 2023, and that exceeded the 45 days from the time of the expiration to the time of the appointment. As you know, matters come before the board in the affirmative, whether it's an appeal or otherwise. Therefore, the resolution that is presented for your consideration tonight is to follow the request, which is the appointment of Michael Toohey by the authority commissioners. If there is any other decisions to be made, there is an alternate resolution provided in your pack. They are labeled 23 to 11A and 23 to 11B respectively. Be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have. I know that we do have some individuals signed up for this issue.
Any questions of Brian at this time by directors? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted clarification if the resolution that is currently on the floor is A,
Yes.
and what would be the action to take if B is preferred?
To amend the motion that's on the floor to substitute B in place of A.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions of Mr. Albright? We have 2 individuals that have signed up to speak on this resolution, and Ms. Joyce Kraft. Please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please. And I know that Ms. Nadine is coming up as well.
Good evening
Welcome.
to Mayor McCabe, to the city manager, directors. I'm Dr. Nadine Jarman. I'm the executive director of the Housing Authority. We understand that this item was on the consent agenda in your previous meeting, and it was moved to the new business. There were 2 items that were addressed. One is the slippage of time, which I'm here to explain that was just an administrative oversight on our part. The dates now have to align with the state, and they all come in August. And so we were unaware of the change of the date, and so that's the slippage in time. The other issue had to do with Mr. Toohey's attendance at our board meetings. And I'm just here to address from my standpoint. As many of you may know, I just took the position last year. I replaced Mr. Harrington. And though Mr. Toohey may not have physically been in all of our meetings, what he has contributed is invaluable. We're about to embark on a very important development deal, and he has a great deal of financial expertise that we will rely on to keep this deal moving forward. Should you not go with the recommendation or the resolution, it would push our timeline out greatly to the point that we may miss the application deadline for tax credits. And so we do need his expertise on the board, and we would hope that you would recognize that and vote in favor of this resolution. I'm going to let the board chairman have a few words. She knows a lot more about this. She's been here a lot longer. So I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Kraft.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Kraft. I am the chair of the Board of Commissioners for the City of Hot Springs Housing Authority, and I am honored to serve in that position. I'm here in support of Resolution 23211. I don't live in anybody's district. I live in the county. But I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak to you on behalf of the Housing Authority Commissioners in regard to the missed deadline and the appointment of Mr. Toohey to position 2. The Board of Commissioners for the City of Hot Springs Housing Authority is made up of individuals who serves or have served the citizens of the Hot Springs community in many different capacities. It is a functioning, active, and cohesive board who has a special heart and interest for the citizens of Hot Springs, especially for the segment of the community we serve, the indigent and marginalized individuals who seek affordable housing. When I was made aware that the commissioners had missed the deadline for the reappointment of Mr. Tui, I immediately emailed Ms. Morrissey, the city clerk. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, and apologized for missing the deadline, and explained to her that the established practices from the previous executive director was that he would notify the board commissioners whose term was expiring and when. The commissioners solely relied on him. That was the established practice. We have no problems with being in compliance moving forward. However, Ms. Morrissey, the city clerk, noted in her email that at one point, the Housing Authority Commissioners' terms became misaligned with the state statute and that they have been working to get those back in alignment. Therefore, there are some inconsistencies in appointments and subsequent term dates that need to be reconciled. Ms. Morrissey stated that she would keep in touch with us next summer so she can make sure we get it all coordinated, and we appreciate her support. I believe in going forward, all of our terms will end in August. As the Housing Authority Commissioners move forward with creatively addressing the housing needs of the indigent community, the person, Mr. Mike Tui, whom the Board of Commissioners voted unanimously to reappoint to position 2, brings a valuable skill set that the board needs. Yes, it appears that he may have been physically absent at the meetings, but the commissioners knew they had access to him. When a second opinion or questions about the budget or financial statements were needed. As you know, anytime you are dealing with monies, budgets, and especially when you are receiving federal funds, you need a person of his caliber, qualifications as a CPA on your board. The Board of Commissioners regret that this issue had to come before you, but we thank you for your consideration.
Very good. Any questions of our guest speakers? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Jarman, you mentioned deadline for tax credits. How soon is that deadline?
Well, the QAP, last I checked, had not been issued, but last year it was in like March.
Okay.
Which was the deadline to actually submit your application.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Kraft, good to see you again. Question, the 3 other commissioners, you and Mr. Tui, who are the other 3 commissioners?
We have Ms. Cheryl Batts,
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Latasha Harris,
I know Latasha.
and
Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy,
Lee Murphy.
Lee Murphy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Directors have any other questions? Thank you. Oh, Director Beard?
Yes, you'd mentioned that the Mr. Tui was helping with the tax credits. So if he's not on the board, is he not willing to help still?
You know, that's a good question. I'm sure as, you know, as a concerned citizen he may, but, you know, we will still have a quorum. However, you know, to just assume that he'd be, you know, willing to dedicate quite a bit of time in terms of a development deal that we're in the midst of voluntarily. It's voluntary anyway, they don't get paid. But at least he would be on the board and allowed to vote and allowed to respond to emails that all the other board members send them. We communicate quite a bit. So I can't answer that question. I think only he you know, heck, I mean, tax season is coming up. I don't know what his schedule would look like, but I think he's very committed, you know, if he's on the board, to serving in the capacity that we've asked him to serve, which is to help us with a lot of financial issues.
Director Holliday?
In our agenda meeting, it came up that the Housing Authority doesn't necessarily go out to the public the way our other committees and commissions do. So with respect to this particular position and this individual, did you consider anyone else, or has anyone else communicated with you that they might be interested in joining the Housing Authority?
No, not to my knowledge. No one's asked or expressed interest. And no, we did not advertise. We're not required to. We are a self-appointing board, and so no, we actually just assumed that Mr. Tui would be reappointed without any issue. And we didn't know until the city attorney called and said that we had missed the deadline.
And I've met him before, and I don't see him, so he isn't here to speak on his behalf, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all being here to speak up on this issue and kind of shed some insight to us as to what's going on this particular commission. How do you foresee his attendance improving as y'all move along, you know, if he were to be reappointed to this commission? I give you that question because, as you were sharing with us, he is a very valuable insight to meeting the financial needs of this commission. If you were in a meeting and questions came up and yet he's absent and you've got deadlines that need to be met, how are you able to respond to those questions in a timely manner if he's absent from the meetings and you need to get those questions finalized as the meetings are happening? Have y'all had that talk with him to?
I've spoken with him, and he is willing to serve if the board would have him, and that hopefully he would answer the telephone if we called him. If we called him, he would be receptive to answering the phone.
And we also have a process, just like with COVID and everything else, you know, between Zoom and conference calls. What we do, if there is a query that comes out of a particular meeting, we immediately send out an email to, to pose that question to him or to any other board member. And they usually respond within the same day.
Thank you.
Any additional questions by the board? Director Dobbs Smith?
I have a question about Mr. Tui as well. How long has he been on the commission?
Since 2020.
Since 2020, so not very long. And do you have a requirement on the commission to have a CPA or an accountant, someone with that experience? Some of our commissions have requirements that you have architects or certain disciplines on the board, on that commission. Does yours?
We don't have a requirement, but we try to find people who have skill sets to fit on the board in areas that we need.
Thank you.
Director Garcia?
I had a question of the city attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
In the Arkansas law that was given to us, that we have a copy of, it says that when what has happened in the expiration, that the city board shall appoint. And it's my understanding it's not if you want to, not if you feel like it, not if you look the other way, but shall means you will do it. Is that correct?
It is my experience that shall is mandatory.
Okay. So from what I've read, it's mandatory, my understanding, and therefore I move to amend and substitute B for this resolution, 111B.
We have a motion to substitute.
For clarification, can you share with the board what B? states?
Yes, B does identify the statutory provision that states that 45 days elapses between the expiration of the term and the appointment that the board shall appoint the successor. It goes on to say that in doing so, the board will follow its procedure for general policies and procedures set forth in boards and commissions under Hot Springs Code 2-8-1, which is the advertising, the application, the interview, like you do your other appointments.
So that's a process that's going to take a little bit of time.
It will.
But
Director Garcia.
it does not prevent the current applicant from applying.
That is correct. That is correct.
But to be in accordance with the law, I move the substitution.
Does,
I have a question, Mayor.
I don't know that we have a second yet.
We have to have a second to
Okay.
discuss.
I will second that.
okay, we have a second by Director Holliday. Director Trustee.
Yeah, I have a question, Mayor. Thank you. Brian, are we prohibited from adopting Resolution 2311A
Well, as Director Garcia,
under terms of law?
as Director Garcia pointed out, shall is a mandatory term. However, when I drafted the alternative B, I assumed, and we know what happens when you dissect that word
Yes.
occasionally, that the board would want to follow its regular policy of solicitation, interviews, and the like. There is an alternative to the alternative, and that would be that you make the appointment. It's not a confirmation. You are making the appointment, but it is the individual which has been recommended to you by the authority, and you do it now.
And that would not be a violation of law?
No, sir. Your current policy with respect to your other boards and commissions, as written, does not apply to the housing authority because you don't have that purview. Again, I included that in the provision of the alternate resolution because that's what you do with the ones that you do have purview over. So I hope that I muddied that up sufficiently.
Is there one more alternative?
There is.
Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. So to help clear that water, would that essentially mean that in the route that we take tonight, if we were to accept A or B, neither one would violate the law?
Neither one would violate the law.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
No, A
Wait,
would.
No,
A would, but
A
not
would.
B.
A would, as written.
Okay.
The appointment of Michael Toohey, as requested by the authority, would not violate the law. But you're making the appointment, not a confirmation, not a ratification, not an okay. You're making the direct appointment, not the commission. That's all that can happen, frankly. If you're going to follow the law, the only thing that can happen is you make the appointment. How you make that appointment, who you appoint, is the issue.
Any, Director
Sorry.
Trustee?
Thank you. So, one more time, Resolution A, as it's written, would not be in conjunction with the law.
It would not comply with the law.
So A would have to be amended.
Yes.
Instead of saying confirmed, it would have to say is hereby appointed.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. Is it that simple?
It could be,
Okay.
unless you want to follow a policy and process
Right.
of,
And that would be Resolution B.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Director Holliday?
So, one, I guess if we're in discussion time, if we're going to do the appointing, I will just say that I would prefer to have a little more information than we have at the moment. But also, it says that, and I'm looking to the city attorney to make sure that I understand this correctly, but whoever is in a position continues to serve until that position is filled, correct? So until such a time that someone else is appointed, then Michael Toohey still serves in position 2, correct?
So as a general proposition, that's called de facto. In this instance, it's actually expressed in the statutory scheme that regulates the housing authority, yes. Michael Toohey continues to serve until the successor is appointed.
So with respect to some of the challenges that you guys have, he's still in the position, even if we choose to accept B. Also, I would expect, if he is still interested, for him to apply. So we actually have the rest of the information about the individual. So thank you for that.
Director Trustee?
One last question to Ms. Kraft. You said that Mr. Toohey was confirmed on a 4-0 vote, a unanimous vote of the remaining commissioners?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
To serve another term?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So if he was confirmed by the 4 remaining commissioners, is that also implying that he is willing to serve again?
Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment that in my career, I've had a number of board members that I worked with in different capacities. And while you'd like to have them all attend all the meetings, you know, they don't always do that. And apparently, perhaps with this individual, he's maybe missed many more than he's attended. But at the same time, I've had board members that have missed meetings, and but they're Johnny on the spot when it comes to sending out an email and administration seeking advice, and they respond very timely, or they'll pick up the phone and call. They're not disengaged. They just didn't get to the meeting, you know. So they're well versed and pay attention to the issues of the day and respond. Some of the things that were mentioned today regarding, you know, questions at the meeting, that's troubling, because there are talents on boards, and you want to have specific talent on boards based upon what your needs are and the direction of the organization. And if they're not there at the time you're discussing a matter, you know, calling them on the phone isn't really the best way to go. But at the end of the day, you know, if a person is fully engaged, you know, day in, day out, but don't attend a meeting, unable to, or have a conflict, you know, that in and of itself shouldn't be a disqualifier. So what I'm hearing from the Housing Authority and the chair is that they're really in need of a person with his background, a CPA style individual. We open it up to the general public. We may get CPAs, we may not, and based on what they're indicating with the application process, you know, that background is essential. So those are just my comments and observations. You know, the fact that he would continue to serve until an appointment was made. I understand what Director Holliday's saying. The individual could reapply. But if that's the talent the Housing Authority needs, and he has it, you know, I could go with a rewrite of A and insert his name. Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. After hearing everybody speak tonight, I myself lean somewhat in favor of amending A so that it does allow us to appoint Mr. Toohey. You know, the commission has 2 members here present for us tonight who are speaking highly on his behalf and how valuable he is to this commission. I wish he were here tonight to speak for himself, but these 2 that are here are speaking highly. It sounds like, you know, almost to piggyback on what our mayor was sharing with us tonight, that they are in need of a CPA, and he has been doing a great job at fulfilling at least his role to this commission. And I'm hearing from you that you feel like he will continue to do that moving forward. And so that's kind of where I am, is amending A.
That's not what's on the floor right now.
Director Garcia.
Yes. Do you, I have a couple of questions. Do you know why the applicant is not here to speak?
I didn't ask.
Okay. he wasn't interested in being here?
He
Or-
probably would have.
Oh, he wasn't,
I
he
didn't
wasn't
I
asked,
didn't
but
ask.
he knew that this was on the agenda.
I don't know.
Oh, so y'all haven't talked since the last meeting on any of this?
No.
What has he done regarding the, your interest in the tax credits? What work has already been, done that he has prepared?
One of the things that is key in the development process is the very first step, which is the negotiation of the development agreement with the developer. And it has some financial implications in terms of the developer fee and the structure of the pro forma in terms of whether or not you're gonna, you know, own the property, get a seller's note, the stuff that both from a legal and financial standpoint, you need somebody on board that really understands development deals. And he has participated, he has proofread and made comments on the early draft of the development agreement. We have not entered into it yet. We're still, in fact, we have a call tomorrow with our legal attorney. And so yes, he has been engaged, involved in this process. Again, my only concern, and I really appreciate your point about he can continue to serve, is that anybody that knows anything about development knows that you are in a very tight timeline with the Arkansas Finance and Development Authority and the issuance of tax credits, and you really have to have a very tight financial plan that you submit as part of your recommendation. So that was my really concern, is that I don't want to disengage him at this juncture, but.
Sure, but if we put it out, he would still could be an applicant, but has he already prepared any of that information?
Yes.
He's got information
He's
prepared.
participating, yes.
Okay, so, but that wasn't included in your board meeting minutes? I was going by what was in your
Oh, no.
minutes, and none of that information was
No,
included
that-
in your
really,
minutes?
Actually, that just happened in the last couple of weeks. We opted to not have a meeting in the month of December, not to have a board meeting, but we continued. Oh, I'm so sorry. But we
Okay.
continue to work on the development deal because, again, it's very time sensitive. So those would not have been the minutes that you
That we
probably-
received?
Probably, I think we're maybe in November. I think that's the last meeting that we actually had, was early November. Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any additional questions, Director Beard?
Yes, I realize that the discussion is still going on, but before we vote, can you restate exactly what we're voting on, A or B?
Yes, ma'am, I think that's wise.
Can I pause for a minute? Director Holliday, did you have another question or comment?
No, I'm not sure if you can see her through the plant. So
Yeah,
I was making sure you knew
her
she was
fingertips
raising her
clear
hand.
the red leaves and I can make it out.
So, Mayor, members of the board, the original motion on the floor was to adopt alternative A. There was a motion to amend by substituting alternate B. So B, as written, in its toto, in your packet, is what is on the floor presently. If there were to be a vote called for, you would be voting up or down on B as written.
I'm confused.
And if B was voted down,
You would go back to A and continue discussions, which could include other amendments. What you cannot do is move to amend the motion to amend, which is on the floor.
I do have a question.
so right now, we're in a position, we have to vote on
up
up
or
or
down
down
on
on item B.
Yes,
Call
sir.
to question. Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
Director Holliday,
Considering it's the holidays, one of the things that's concerning is the length of time it would take to go through our process, which is what is in B. So considering it is almost Christmas, what is a reasonable time that we would have the applications back, do our interviews, and make our appointment with our process?
Madam Clerk?
Of course, you could set the agenda, but what would be reasonable and what would follow what we typically do would be if we began advertising right away, let that advertisement run for 30 days. So that would be December 20th to January 20th. The deadline to apply could be January 23rd. You could interview at your January 30th meeting and then make the appointment at your regular meeting February 6th. That's just the first one that would come to my mind. Of course, we could
But that would be the
deviate.
soonest.
That would be the soonest if you follow the typical protocol of advertising for 30 days, having the interviews following an agenda meeting, and then making the appointment at a regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Just so we know what we're actually talking about here. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
I think.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
No.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
No.
Mayor McCabe.
No. The amendment, the resolution as amended is approved.
Well,
Or-
the amendment is approved.
Well, item B is approved.
Well, you got, it could be subject to amendment now. You have amended the motion on the floor to substitute B.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
B is
you.
now,
Well,
takes the place of the original motion, so further discussion, if any, as amended.
okay. So again, what we just voted on was to move away from A to B. We haven't voted necessarily on B yet.
That's correct.
So-
The motion as amended has not been voted on, just the amendment.
So so the process then is to entertain a motion to approve B?
Or call
Well,
the question.
you can call for the question, you can have discussion. If there isn't any, you can call the roll.
Real quick, I'd like to say, I don't think it needs to go into the language, but considering the time constraints, if this were to pass, I would like it to start right away. I wouldn't want to delay and get tangled up in your deadlines. I'd want you guys to know what to expect sooner than later.
The language, just so everyone is on the same page, under section 4 of B, which is now the one that's being discussed on the floor, states that the city clerk, under the direction of the city manager, is to implement and expedite the applicable provisions.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I need to hear some clarification on that with the A's and B's back and forth. So we just said that right now B is what's on the table, right?
Yes, sir.
If we were to say not pass B, does that mean that it comes back to A and we can amend A so that we appoint and not recommend? Is that what could happen, per se?
A would come back to the floor.
Okay. Which then could be amended.
And that's why we always bring, this is a good lesson, this is why we always bring things in the affirmative. Because if you bring something in the negative and you vote it down, if you say no to a negative, you accomplish nothing. But what is up for further consideration, possible amendment, or vote is B, as written on pages 53 and 55 of your 54 of your packet.
Since we
Thank you.
have discussed all of it, I call the question.
Please call the roll.
Before, can
This
you
is-
say what
Pardon?
we're voting on?
You are voting on alternative B, which is found in page 53 and 54 of your packet, which is to say that the board is going to make the appointment. However, in doing so, you are going to follow your regular procedure that you would for other boards and commissions that are found in Hot Springs Code 2-8-1 at SEEK.
Everybody understand where we're at?
You good with that? You want to look at the page?
I'm on the page.
Okay. 53 and 54.
So basically, item B right now puts it in the track that we would normally utilize for filling other vacancies.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
No.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee?
No.
Holliday?
Aye.
Mayor McCabe?
No. Item B or option B is approved. So we'll move with all speed. The current holder of position 2 remains in that position and is eligible to be an applicant. He'll continue to serve in his present capacity until such time that either he or another individual is appointed by this body.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
I just ask that we ask the 2 that were here tonight to request that Mr. Toohey continue in his position until we have a chance to go through this process. I know that's what we say he's doing, but based on actions tonight, he might say no. But I would ask that they request him to stay serving in his current position.
We'll get that word to them as
Thank
they're
you.
walking out. We'll move on to the final 2 items on the agenda. And the first is ordinance O-23- it's a resolution. Resolution R-23-212, and I ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-212, resolution adopting the 2024 pay tables for uniform and non-uniform employees as set forth in the compensation study conducted by Evergreen Solutions LLC and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Webb, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. In our staff report will be provided by Ms. Brooke Gilbert, Director of Human Resources. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs retained Evergreen Solutions LLC to conduct a classification and compensation study. Evergreen reviewed the existing classification and compensation plan to ensure that all positions within the city are internally equitable. Go ahead.
Move your microphone over. There you go.
And externally competitive. The objective is to have a creditable classification and compensation plan that ensures positions performing similar work are properly assessed based on complexity, responsibility, knowledge, skills, and abilities. The study ensures salaries are commensurate with assigned duties and provides recognizable compensational growth. Our study also provides justifiable pay differential between individual classes and supports wages with relevant labor markets. Evergreen Solutions LLC has presented new pay tables for 2024. Staff requests that the Board of Directors adopts the new pay tables for 2024 to become effective for the pay period ending January 5th, 2024. We have representatives from Evergreen Solutions available by Zoom to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions of Brooke on this topic? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Question I have is, as it relates to the district court administrator, who did Evergreen provide a comparative analysis of this district court administrative position with, like which city and which type of court?
I'd like to pass that on to Stacy.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, and thanks for having me here, at least virtually this evening. For that particular classification, we used more of our internal data than other comparative city data to recommend where it would fit on the new pay tables.
So again, like as your internal data may reflect, can you share with us like what type of court your internal data is comparing the district court administrator for Hot Springs with?
So when we're comparing those to peer organizations, we are comparing based on roles, responsibilities, and functions that are provided in the job descriptions. And then we compare that to other peer organizations and their job descriptions. So it's not title to title match. And if we don't have at least a minimum of 5 quality matches for that data point, then we rely heavily on our internal review that we do and align it with the other comparable classifications.
What did your internal data show as it relates to the comparison with district court administrator?
As far
as the pay
how it
goes.
should be aligned, is that what you're
Right,
asking?
yes.
So that position aligns with your other deputy and assistant director classifications and positions based on roles, responsibilities, and the functions of the position.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. It was my understanding as we had a full review and thank our HR director and Stacy and the group for going through all the details last week, but that this position that was just mentioned was getting an increase in the salary, and I looked at that, but it's not on my mind. What was the, when there a percentage increase on that base salary? Do you have that information?
I don't have that information in front of me. So really what we're looking to do is to provide you with new pay tables to meet the needs of your organization as a whole. A salary discussion is a separate discussion from where a position would lie within a pay grade structure.
Right, that goes through the reviews, and as all of our employees do.
Right, those.
And
Yes.
if there are, I know some situations, some special situations can occur in market areas where there is a more difficulty in hiring or retaining in certain positions. And I believe the city manager may have some that comes before us at a later date as more detail is reviewed and discussions on those specific salaries within a salary range. And I would suggest that any others that all be rolled in and brought in at one time if possible. If there are other issues arise for that type of issue that I think some of the utilities may have.
Yeah, I'll address that. So, you know, what we're prepared to do tonight is to adopt the pay tables
policy,
themselves,
yeah.
not discuss any particular position or any particular employee. As I've mentioned to the board, there were job analysis tools that were completed by employees. Those still need to come back and have some comparisons to the actual job descriptions. We're really in that phase of rewriting those job descriptions, but there was enough information in the job descriptions and the job analysis tools for them to make decisions on where any particular position would fall upon the pay scale. There are some of those, equipment operators, truck drivers, and I think there was another one. We even asked for a deeper dive on this particular position as well. So there will be some, minor tweaks to some of those as we go through that JAT and the job description. We may see a position that would move up into a pay grade, into a higher pay grade. One of the things that we want to make sure we do is that we keep our equity between the positions. And we've discussed that all the way through this process. So I know that particular position that Director Webb has mentioned, it didn't have a lot of good comparables out there from city to city. But in speaking with Evergreen, they did have comparable data in other areas, as well as being able to look at internal equity and looking at the job duties, job functions. We've also had additional information that we received from the court that we got over to Evergreen to look in an additional deep dive. So I think the position is being reevaluated or evaluated as we speak.
Very good. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that elaboration. So as far as what we're dealing with tonight, this is a matter of just approving the pay scales as they are, and there are some other questionable areas that could have some amended parts to it as we move forward. Thank you.
And typically we don't see a reclassification come to the board. If those are decisions that I've made in the past, depending on those responsibilities. So, again, we could see that as we move through the process. One of the things that they cautioned me on is to be careful when we do that. We don't want to have an effect on the integrity of the study itself. But I know going through that, and having been through 3 of these in the past, that there are going to be those situations where we need to have an additional review and potentially move something to a different pay grade where appropriate.
Director Garcia.
And I really appreciate the work that's being done on updating the job descriptions and my experience, and I know the HR manager can address that. As fast as technology occurs, and now with AI impacting how jobs are done, this is a constant bit of work to always keep up with how you are doing a job, and it ends up just being continuous improvement. And although some of ours may have not been updated in a while, it's very grateful for the work going into getting those updates. So thank everybody involved.
Very good. Any Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. I know that the study that was commissioned and was completed, we've made some exceptions to some of the recommendations in that study, such as the police department and the fire department. Were there any other exceptions that were made to any other departments or any other positions?
I don't believe so.
You don't think that's
I don't
it?
believe so.
Okay. And I meant to call you today, Bill, and I'm sorry, but what about the increase, the overall increase from 23 to 24? Do you recall what that's going to be?
It was somewhere around $2 million. Karen, do you have that number? 2.1, 2.2,
Okay.
somewhere in that neighborhood. There is one other classification that I haven't mentioned, but dispatchers is one that we also need to take a look at. They're non-uniform, but they're in the police department. They're on a different step progression, so that's one that we'll probably have to go back and look at as well as we look at this, and maybe try to get them over on a different type step plan. But that's something that was brought up really today that I hadn't spoken to the chief about yet. But these are things, when we've got 650, 660 employees.
Right.
I mean, we're going to have positions that we need to go back in and take another look at as we go through this process.
Certainly. They are on one of these tables, the dispatch.
Yes.
Of course, they're on the public safety
Yes.
table. Any concerns, well, back up. When we first started this conversation, I thought the step increases were going to be 1%. There was discussion along that line, and now they've wound up at being 1.6%.
Well, originally they were 3.2, and it's half of that now. It's always been 1.6 in this step progression, and those are automatic.
Right.
Which we haven't had in the past. We've had that discussion. You know, one of the biggest complaints we've had over the 22 years that I've been here is we don't have separation between new hires and tenure. I think the last time we funded merit was 2005. So, you know, unless there's been some kind of incentive or something happening to move down that scale, most of the employees that have been hired in the last 15 years are stuck at B or C.
Right.
This will allow that separation, but it also allows for the opportunity to have COLAs in those years to stay competitive in the market as well. So that was a big reason we went with the type of progression in the steps that we have today. It takes it out, I want to say 26 years. So
Right.
it's a full tenured employee that would make it to the end of the scale.
I just thought at one point, I remembered us having a discussion about those steps being 1% instead of 1.6. And I was a little surprised last week when I saw the 1.6.
It's been 1.6 all the way through.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or concerns about sustainability going forward? I know.
Well, there's always, concern with that when you have something like this.
I mean, it's such a large increase, right?
Yeah. But, we talked about that, before we started the process. But,
Right.
We've done really well over the years in developing and building a surplus. I think once we have a couple of years behind us, we'll be able to see kind of what the new market's going to be doing. I do think this is sustainable. 5 years, we probably need to look at it again. But I know that it's sustainable at least for the next several years.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions of Brooke or Evergreen? Stacy? Okay, thank you. We do have one very special person who signed up to speak, the Honorable Judge Meredith Schweitzer. Please come forward, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, directors, for allowing me an opportunity to address you this evening. It is a little awkward for me to sign up to speak against this resolution. I think that's somewhat mischaracterized, and typically I would agree that you would not want to address a specific position and the review that Evergreen has conducted with respect to that position in an open forum like this. However, I feel like I've been forced into this position to address it in this manner, because I have, over the last month plus, engaged in repeated discussions with Manager Burrow and of course, Ms. Gilbert regarding specifically the court administrator position. And it wasn't until about 2 minutes ago that I discovered that the review and evaluation for the court administrator position was based on internal data that Evergreen had. I spent a great deal of time collecting data from other jurisdictions in the state of Arkansas to provide additional information for consideration for this position. And I will say that this highlights a problem that plagues district courts around the state of Arkansas, and I specifically chased Representative Warren down and asked him to come back in because, as a representative of this district, I wanted him to hear the burden that the current state of the law places on district courts in terms of our ability to operate effectively and efficiently. And that is this: you all know that we are jointly funded by the city and the county. Different district courts are funded differently across the state. There is no standardization there. What that means is a district court in the northeast part of the state could be funded solely by one county, by multiple counties, by a combination of counties and cities. In Hot Springs, our Garland County District Court is jointly funded 50-50 by the city and the county. By statute, our employees are classified as city employees. They have to be aligned with a governing body's policies and procedures for purposes of hiring, firing, retention, etc. The autonomy, though, and the ability to operate efficiently and effectively has got me hamstrung year after year after year after year, because I have to come and fight tirelessly, presenting my case and my position and my request for additional resources to individuals who, with all due respect, are not boots on the ground and do not understand our daily operations and what it takes to operate this court the way that it currently operates. In 2021, in the fall, I lost the top 2 leadership positions in our court. The chief clerk that had been there for 20 plus years left to go work for Judge Omis as court reporter, and then Captain Mark Allen, who served as our court administrator at the time, retired. Immediately, I became responsible for operating that court as a sitting judge. I'm not competent to do so. In an urgent fashion, I hired on a new clerk and a new court administrator. But I took that as an opportunity to reorganize the organizational structure for district court so that it was more streamlined. And I've invested a great deal of time and effort in onboarding professional executives that have contributed to the efficient and effective administration of that court. It has not been easy. I mention that because when I brought on our current court administrator, Mr. Burrow, the job description that was utilized was frankly whatever I could come up with to polish up and put forth. District courts in the state of Arkansas are a creature of statute that have grown since the year 2000 with the adoption of Amendment 80. We've gotten too big for our britches, I will say. We have matured to the extent that our staffing and the compensation of our staff has not grown commensurate. Our funding has not grown commensurate with the obligations, the docket volume, and the types of cases that we hear. And it is frequently causing a burden on our court. Because I'm having to come to Bill year after year and say, I need more people, I need more money, I need this and that. And you gotta remember, all of the money that you're investing, rightfully so, and gratefully so, in first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters, at the end of the day, every additional blue suit you put on the street winds up in an estimate of 100 tickets per month for each additional officer, easily. So on the back end, the court is also bearing that additional volume, and we're not growing with it, okay? So in particular, this court administrator position, which I consider to be the apex of our organizational chart, based on the review that's been conducted by Evergreen, I don't think has been fairly assessed. Like I said, I provided additional information. Part of the reason for that is, like I said, the organizational structure for district courts in the state of Arkansas vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We do the best with what we've got. In my jurisdiction, what we've done is we've cobbled together, I've streamlined, I've put the court administrator at the top of the apex of our organizational chart, and the unfortunate fact is there aren't very many individuals in the state of Arkansas who are also called court administrator. There are some, few, but what I did is I pulled job descriptions together in hopes of providing that information so that it can be considered. And unfortunately, the resulting recommendation as far as that salary is concerned is far less than I thought that it would be. I do understand Mr. Burrow's position that the court administrator is not a department head. That is true in that the court is not a department of the city. We are a separate branch of government. However, because of the way we are tied to the city and the county, pursuant to the law, a horse is a horse is a horse. A duck that walks like a duck is a duck. He is my department head. If you think for a second that you've got an urgent problem that needs to be addressed, you can just come get me off the bench at any given time for me to address. That just don't happen. If you've been in my court lately, we're on cue to have 70,000 individuals through the door this year. I need to get back to the job of judging. And in order to do that, I've put in place executive professionals who have done an extremely good job for me. And I expect them to be compensated adequately. And so I've been kind of forced into the position. I don't know what the proper avenue is. I've had discussions with Mr. Burrow. I've had discussions with Ms. Gilbert. I for the first time today, was offered to speak with Ms. Winchell. But all of those discussions have been to no avail. We are a different animal. We unfortunately, I think, deserve to be treated slightly different. And I'm asking this governing body to take into consideration the firsthand knowledge that I have as to what it takes to operate my court, and that is to keep him, to keep her, so that we can continue to do the good work of criminal justice in this community. I don't know what the next step is, but I'm asking you to recognize and rectify a problem that has plagued us for a long time, and that is, please be open more to understanding what the city's role is vis-a-vis the courts, and frankly, lift some of that load from me so I can get back to the job of judging.
Director Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge, for explaining all this, and I don't disagree with anything you say. It's as mentioned, is going to be some more work done and brought back that this can be tweaked and amended. But I wanted to ask, has there been any discussion with legislative action? The state has over $1 billion surplus. In moving these positions into the state salaries, as aren't the judges' salaries from the state?
Yes, now they are. Yes, you're right.
And can we not get all of your organization in there so it would be more and get more alike across our state?
I think that should be the goal, and that's exactly why I invited Representative Warren to please stay as a personal favor to me. Like I said, the idea of growing district courts from what used to be our local traffic court into what it is today, I handle everything under the sun.
I know.
I've been in there. The financing, the budgeting for the operation did not grow with it pursuant to the statute. In circuit court, by comparison, you've got a judge, a trial court administrator, a court reporter, and a bailiff. That's it. That's all you got. We've got 20 individuals on our staff, and it takes every single one of them to do what we need to do. That's a big task, a big ask. It's going to take a lot of awareness. This is a project that, I don't know if you guys know, but my goal in the next 13 months is to move up to circuit court. But this is something I feel so passionate about, that district courts, district judges, district court staffs are drowning across the state, and we are carrying the load of criminal justice, really. I don't know what the likelihood is that will be addressed legislatively, but we're in dire need.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me, to aid you in that assessment, you understand, when we collect fines and costs every year, every month, a portion of that goes to the city, a portion of that goes to the county, and an even larger portion goes to the state.
Most of it.
So we are turning back a lot of money to the state. What is retained at the city and the county levels is what's called your retention share, and that was set ages ago. So the only way that the city and the county makes more money is if we collect more fines. Not fees or costs, but fines. Well, it's hard to distinguish. We're collecting whatever we're getting our hands on. You can't really define collecting fines and fees and costs. There is a priority pursuant to the statute, but it's a very complex problem. I'll grant you that. And like I said, I did not intend to bring our dirty laundry into this open forum. However, I've been working really long and hard trying to get this addressed, and I haven't gotten any adequate responses as to what this salary recommendation was based on and why it is not commensurate with other apex directors of agencies. I did submit an FOIA request today to Mr. Burrow in our meeting this morning. And as a result of that, I've requested job descriptions for the various department heads so that I myself can look and justify why do I have an individual who's actively supervising and managing 20 individuals not being paid a wage that's commensurate with other directors. And I will tell you that what I have observed thus far is the job descriptions are still widely all over the place. And I will tell you that district court has always been kind of something you didn't really want to touch or look at. You want to look at it through closed fingers because it's a big, different kind of animal. It's not apples to apples, apples to oranges. So I do grant that, but I also understand what it is going to take for this court to continue to operate in the way that it is. We have made unbelievable strides in the last couple of years in terms of how we're operating. And that is seen in our turnover is greatly reduced, our retention, morale. We've increased training. We've standardized the training protocol for our employees. There's a lot of great things going on at this court.
As you said, we get very little. I know at one review on our balance sheet, we had $20 million in fines receivable. So there's always a reserve to compensate for that write-off that's uncollectible on the fines. And we get, the most of it goes to the state, not the city and county, but we get the other expense. It appears, and I'm no expert, but with the state's billions dollar surpluses and the great need in all, not just Hot Springs and Garland County, but across the state, that all legislators and our governor would want to support that type of action. But you were speaking in opposition to this, but to let the other 600 people go, not have this approved. This is just the pay scale. We have other positions that are going to be tweaked with additional deep dive into data, which it sounds like you have more information, whether it is a job description or job category change. But all of that will come back to tweak this overall plan, job position, and pay scale.
And I appreciate that. My understanding from our meeting earlier is that additional review has been completed and that the result is still that the recommendation as far as the salary for that position will remain closer to where it is as opposed to where I expected it to be. Again, which is why I feel like I was kind of forced in the position to bring it in this forum, even if not in the proper whole, if you will.
Can you provide clarification? I understood that, and from a while ago.
We did submit all of the information that Judge Schweitzer had given us to Evergreen. They did a deeper dive. I talked to them again today to look at that again. But they did a deeper dive, still came back that it fell upon what we would consider an 18D in the proposed pay scales. We've got 9 positions. I've got 4 positions at a 19 and 5 positions that are at a 20. You know, you think about a 20, I'm trying to think what position. Our assistant utilities director's got 156 employees, multi-million dollars worth of budgets. It's hard for me to compare that with our court administrator. That's one of the reasons we hired this company to do that, and I appreciate what Judge Schweitzer's done. She's done great things over at district court. She's done good things as we've gone through this study. You know, part of my charge is to look at that and go, you know, how does that compare to the other number of positions that we have? I have not looked at the court administrator position as being a department head position. And we had that conversation today. You know, in my experience, and I think, and Judge Schweitzer had a comment earlier today that I think has some relevance. But in the past, the judges has always been the de facto department head. That court operates how the judges want that court to operate. And that's how that's always been. But she made a statement today that, you know, the whole reason this position needs to be converted to some type of a department head type position, or the apex, whatever we want to call it, is so she doesn't have to do those functions. I try not to look at the person and look at the position. I'm glad Representative Warren is here. This has been a problem for years. It's going to continue to be a problem. The state needs to intervene. It's a very awkward position for a city manager to be in when you're going through a budget session with a judge that has responsibilities for that courtroom. You know, you've got judicial sitting there with the executive branch trying to mash meat into a sausage that just can't quite get there. It's a very awkward position for me to be in, and you know, those are tough conversations. I have a lot of respect for the court administrator. I think he's doing a great job. How that compares to the other 650 employees in the pay scale, that's why I was excited to have Evergreen, somebody else come in and look at that, because it's hard for me to look at. I don't know what happens every day in that court. I know the court doesn't know what happens every day in the utilities or in a water production or anything else that we deal with. It's good for somebody to come in with a clear lens to look at all of it. I'm not opposed to any of these changes that we've talked about. I just need a basis to build upon that.
So if we, additional information is provided for, sounds like a change in job description where some of the administrative duties as her being, or any judge being over everything, internal controls to cash to everything, and those duties are put in the job, different job description is updated, then that would cause additional review for potential action.
Sure.
Nothing can, we're not approving anything that can't be updated or changed.
Tonight, we're only talking about pay tables, not where any individual falls on that table. But I appreciate the judge and what she's had to say tonight. I think it's important to hear that.
But at the end of the day, you know, we do have positions, and district court certainly could be added to that, to where we could do an additional review. I understand that information's been forwarded to Evergreen and nothing's changed. I think it's a good opportunity for the board to have an understanding of that process and how that fell out, and because we're looking at some other positions as well, and in fact, we're even one of our public safety departments, we're going to look at that. So, you know, the action today isn't the end. It's just
Understood,
a continuation of the process. So, Director
I
Webb.
just appreciate the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So yeah, I agree to what was stated earlier by Director Garcia, that at some point in time, I would want to see the district court employees fall under the state at some point too. It seems like that is the more appropriate direction to go as we move forward. But, you know, as it stands right now, district court employees do fall under the city umbrella. And, you know, as it relates to this position, district court administrator, I'm looking at, you know, a different job description for a different director, but I think I'm seeing a lot of similarities in what the district court administrator does as it relates to this director. So, you know, for example, this is Parks and Trails, but plans, organizes, directs work in various functions. Would that be checked off, Judge? What about develops departmental policies and procedures?
Absolutely.
Develops and maintains developmental plan, both capital and program related?
Absolutely.
So there are probably some other checks that could take place here. So I do hope that as we move forward that the board does look at updating the job descriptions, especially for this position as it relates to the district court administrator. And I would challenge us maybe to ensure that we can verify that as Evergreen was analyzing this particular position, that it was taken into consideration what was being provided as supplemental details by the judge, because it sounded like a minute ago that it was actually coming from internal data and not necessarily what was being provided, or even a comparison analysis to another city that has a similar district court setup.
Okay. Director,
Thank you, Mayor.
Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Judge, you mentioned that you had done research on other district courts across the state. That information is what has been provided to us and to Evergreen?
When you say us, I'm
The
not,
cities?
I'm not, yes, I did provide it in an email to, two separate emails to Mr. Burrow and to Ms. Gilbert.
Okay.
And again, let me be clear that there are not many other positions that are called quote-unquote court administrator.
Right.
So I looked myself, my layperson, you know, with my layperson eyes, at the job duties and descriptions for comparative analysis. The two positions that I do know for certain are called court administrator. One is in Little Rock, Pulaski, that covers one division of district court, that's traffic, and they handle less than 5,000 cases more than we do per year. Then there's one up in Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas, also a court administrator. And I'll tell you that those, the district court administrator out of Fayetteville, the range of salary is between $80,000 and $120,000. The current district court administrator there makes $96,000. In Sebastian County, the Fort Smith department, the range of salary for the clerk position, which has similar job duties and responsibilities, the range of salary is between $87,000 and $131,000. For the court administrator in Little Rock, for one division, traffic division, with a staff of 20, which is equal to our staff at our district court, their salary is between $48,000 and $75,000 for one division. So do you see the disparity there?
Yes, I just want to make sure we had the information, and I tend to agree that we certainly need to take into consideration, and that is external data and not just internal data that Evergreen had. I think that just needs to factor into the equation. I'm not saying where we go with it, but I just want to make sure you had that information.
I do and have submitted it.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Judge. Any further questions of Judge Schweitzer? Thank you.
I do appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the only individual that signed up on the this topic, discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Director Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Two last action items are ordinances, and at this time we'll consider ordinance O-23-27, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved, Mayor.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Webb. All in favor of the motion and second to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-27, an ordinance approving PD Plan Development Zone District and site plan and amendment and amending the future land use plan map to linear commercial corridor for approximately 0.45 acres, generally located at 117 Pyron Street, and for other purposes. That concludes reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Garcia, second by Director Webb. And our staff report is being provided by Miss Kathy Selman, Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant on this project is Mr. Bear Davidson with Davidson Engineering, and he is representing the property owner, Silver Spur Properties, LLC. They're looking for planned development zoning with site plan approval to expand the existing Finish Line RV park to include a clubhouse, pool, and food truck area on approximately 0.45 acres. It's currently zoned R4, medium high density residential, and is directly adjacent to the recently developed Finish Line RV park. Property is vacant at this time, and the proposed development would occupy the entire site and contain a clubhouse, pool, food truck spaces, and parking lot. And it's surrounded on 3 sides by property also zoned R4, medium high density residential, and on one side, PD, planned development, the Finish Line RV park. Surrounding land uses include single-family residential, undeveloped land. To the northwest is some Oak Lawn Jockey Club storage, which is zone C4, regional commercial open display. And the park, the existing park, is just to the west. The site plan depicts the overall layout, the size and configuration of the proposed clubhouse, pool, food truck area, and parking lot development. The application materials document a 1,500 square foot clubhouse with a covered patio, 10 parking spaces, one of which is ADA van accessible, and 2 food truck spaces. From Golf Links Road, the private street inside Finish Line RV Park will provide access to this development. The access will be only from the existing private street, and there will be no additional curb cuts or driveways from any other public street. A new pedestrian sidewalk is proposed along Pyron, Kuka, and Sunnyside streets. The application and associated documents demonstrate that the property would meet the standards for favorable consideration according to Hot Springs Code Section 16247E, and that all of the individual elements comply with conditions. The site plan and other materials comply with the requirements of the code, and also, in addition to zoning, to other Hot Springs codes applicable to the review. The recommendation to Planning Commission was to approve the Planned Development Zone District with approved uses and site plan for the expansion of Finish Line RV Park, subject to 13 conditions, because when these conditions are applied, the application will comply with the requirements of Hot Springs Code 16247. The conditions as they appear in the resolution include conditions from a previously approved PD for the now established Finish Line RV Park, and they are contained in entirety on that resolution, which you have before you. There was a question regarding timeline for people staying in the RV park. The previous application requested that 3 days before the stables open to 3 days after they close would be the extent of time that people would be able to stay during the live race period. And at other times of the year, non-Oaklawn related, the maximum stay would be 60 days. And because this is an expansion of that park, there is no proposed change to that timeline for RVs occupying the spaces. And in fact, this portion of the development has no RV spaces and does not add any capacity for RVs to the Finish Line RV Park.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? You indicated that access to this added development is through the RV park itself. And
Yes.
There's no additional service road of any kind that would connect this new little 0.45 acres, whatever it was,
No,
to
this
a
would
roadway.
be the terminus of that private road.
Okay. Any additional questions of Ms. Selman?
Mayor, I do have a question. Outside of the live meet time period, is the 60 days part of the conditions of the PD, or is that just what the developer has?
It is not. That is a part of the rules that the developer established and submitted with the development plans for the original 2019 approval of the PD.
So, not enforceable by the city?
We would not be enforcing those now.
Director Garcia?
Thank you. Question for the city attorney is that something that we should add as a condition?
Well, Director, the problem is this was approved in 2019. So that use has already been approved. The issue here is whether or not you're going to let them have a pool or not.
So the conditions for the by that being in the PD, I thought everything stuck with the PD. When they say it, you say it's, but that wasn't, that's not enforceable because it wasn't a condition?
What is before you this evening is an
Right.
expansion of the footprint of the geographical boundary and a use. So the previous use has already been approved and the conditions approved. If you wanted to use new conditions to approve a pool and clubhouse that affect residency requirements on the RV owners, I don't know. They don't seem to have anything to do with one another.
Right.
I don't think that there's the proper nexus there to draw it in.
Director Garcia,
Another
continue.
follow-up question. There has been discussion as we go through the code and update, because this has come up on other proposals about how long, and a lot of it is where the proximities of these RVs are. So any new RV codes updated in our city codes, these would all be grandfathered in, and not, those codes would not be applicable to them?
Well, in this instance, it's even more than that.
Right.
So PD is the PD until the PD changes. If there is a non-conforming pre-existing use elsewhere, then they could be, as Director Silman loves for us to use the phrase, grandfathered in.
Well, I knew what that meant.
Yes,
That's
yes.
why I said that.
Yes, I know. And I do too. I use it all the time. She hates it.
I'm sorry.
All right. Any additional questions of Ms. Selman? If not, we do have the applicant who is signed up to speak for this resolution. Bear Davidson, please come forward. Restate your name and address, please.
Bear Davidson, excuse me, Bear Davidson with Davidson Engineering of Searcy. I signed up for the instance that there might have been some opposition, but if there's not any or any additional questions, I'll just yield if that's okay.
Any questions of the engineering firm?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Webb.
Yes.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the year will be to consider ordinance O-23-28. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Got a motion? Do I have a second by Director Garcia?
Second.
Oh, well, who made the first motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Director Holliday. Director Garcia. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-28, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5777 as amended, Hot Springs towing ordinance as codified in Hot Springs Code section 10-5-12.4. And for other purposes, I conclude your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
To adopt, Director Trustee, second by Director Webb. Okay, staff report is provided by Deputy City Manager Lance Spitzer. So welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, board members. It's my pleasure to bring before you the final ordinance of 2023. It's been traveling some 13 years to get to you. The last time we've adjusted these particular rates is back from May of 2010. So the kind of as a matter of practice, we've got a towing advisory committee comprised of myself, a captain with the police department, and additionally, there are 2 private tow operators, and there is a citizen appointee, which will be forthcoming. The towing advisory committee met, and really what the impetus was to look at the rates and kind of make some technical corrections to the ordinance itself. As stated, this is ordinance 5777, so this is the towing ordinance for Hot Springs, and when we reference that, what we're talking about, basically this is the towing set of services that the Hot Springs Police Department utilizes for its towing rotation list. There's a set of criteria that large wreckers, small wreckers need to meet. They additionally need to be approved by the Chief of Police to be placed on this towing rotation list. And in doing so, whenever there is a need for a wrecker to arrive on the scene to clear the roadway, an accident, etc., they, through dispatch, those various towing operators are contacted. So when we talk about towing service advisory, the group made some adjustments to the various rates. Doing so, wanted to clarify and simplify the rates. We've got in your packet in the information published for the public. Additionally, there was a comparison chart, and really what we looked at was Garland County recently adjusted their towing rates back in the summer of 2022. And as stated from May 2010, we looked at the CPI increase to current day. That's approximately 42%. So if you look at those rates and charges that's on that comparison chart, really what we did was try to make a very simplified, if you're a basic tow, a car, a truck, a passenger vehicle, the towing rate would be $150. That is inclusive of the debris cleanup, any type of drive shaft disconnection, tarping, etc. And then additionally for larger vehicles, that's generally anything over 10,000 gross vehicle weight, that would be $550, and that is also inclusive of the various actions that a tow operator would need to do to get that vehicle out of the roadway. So the storage fees, what we looked at there was to increase those fees so that they are relative to the CPI increase. So those do increase for passenger vehicles versus some of your larger FedEx trucks, tractor trailer rigs, etc. Bigger the vehicle, more work to store it, more space needed to store it as well. Talked about the wait time per hour to increase that to the CPI increase, so that would increase to $65. Wait times which have to be approved by the Hot Springs Police Department, the officer on scene, would go to $65 per hour. Large record would go to $210 per hour. But we do have three new fees that are adjusted. They are actually listed. Garland County does have these fees as well. Administrative fee, that's to offset those office costs, copier costs, etc., to have offices to be on this towing service, to be on this rotation list. Additionally, there is a cleanup fee if there is an accident. There's a solvent, oil, antifreeze, etc. on the roadway that needs to be removed. It would be $25 per bag to do that, and that would also include the disposal. And then there's a letter fee. Had to ask exactly what we were talking about with the letter fee. Those are the notices. Sometimes you see those in the newspaper, and additionally those notices that they provide to the lien holders and the owners of those vehicles. So that's kind of sums up the request from the Towing Service Advisory Committee, and we would entertain any questions. I do believe we've got a couple individuals here that are tow operators. Additionally, if you have any specific questions about the towing service, because I am not a towing expert, but
Very good.
playing one on TV tonight.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't address you as towing expert. I'm just going
Very
to
good.
call you Lance. I think we talked about this at the agenda meeting, but it's highly likely that if anybody within the city limits is involved in a wreck or in Garland County, and they do request that they hire someone who is on the list, the towing list for the Hot Springs Police Department, that if by chance, or I should say, it's highly likely that somebody on that list is going to be available.
Correct.
But if by chance that none of those on that list for the Hot Springs Police Department is available, would it still be favorable that if they resort to someone off that list, that this ordinance could be applied to that towing service company as well?
I think we'd certainly endeavor to do that, because obviously the aim is these towing operators are agents of the city, and that we have certain service requirements. I think we would certainly try to endeavor to have these various rates and fees, but at the same time, if they're not on the towing rotation list, they are called, they are kind of left to their own rates and fees. But I think we would certainly endeavor to get the best pricing for whomever we're dealing with, in that off occasion that would happen.
Thank you. Question for our city attorney. Do we have privilege or right to make some amendment to this ordinance as it relates to that question that I just gave to Lance? Like, could we have something in writing that if anybody on the list for Hot Springs Police Department is unavailable at the time to provide a towing service to an accident, and that person wishes to follow those that are on the list, can we imply that the fees that are in this current ordinance be also applied to those off the list in that occasion?
I don't see how.
Lance, we have 9 on the list.
Is there
That's
9?
Yeah.
9.
Non-operator. So I think in the instance that we wouldn't have a single small tow truck or a larger unit to respond, that would be very, very rare, because there are specific penalties for those tow operators that do not respond in a timely fashion.
I give you that question because I just want to make sure that and this is a great ordinance in my opinion, because it does include what I consider to be fair and applicable rates to those who are willing to follow the list that is provided by HSPD. But if in that off instance nobody's available, I want to make sure that they still have that rate.
Director Webb, just a quick follow-up on that. I would not advise our police department to call anyone that's not on our list.
Okay.
That they have not had an ability to
For
vet,
vetting.
to inspect, and to know their capability, where they're going to tow it. That's just that's not what this is about.
Chief, has that been an issue?
I've not, in my 26 years at the police department, I've never known that to occur.
That's
because
good to
we
hear.
have so many on the list that, if one's not available, we just go to the next one. And I've never known that to occur where we've gone through the entire list and not had anyone that was available. I guess out of some weird circumstance it could happen. But like I said, in 26 years, I'm not aware of that. There are instances where we might call somebody and they're not immediately available. We just go down to the next on the rotation. That's our policy. And then if that one wasn't available, we would go to the next. But by the time we get through a couple, we're gonna have one that's available.
I appreciate that input, especially to hear that it hasn't happened in 20 plus years that you've been an officer for the city. So that point that I have, I think, is moot now.
Also understand that someone can request a tow that is not on our list. If it's your vehicle and it's involved in an accident and you say, I don't want to use your list, I would like to for you to call this record service for us, then we would do that as well.
Right.
That's your option as a citizen, obviously.
Thank you.
But the limitation on fees does not apply.
Right, because it's off the list
Yes,
and
sir.
at their request.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
At their rate.
Right.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I can add that as a victim of more than one hit and run accident, that I've never had a problem in getting towed with one on the list. And the insurance companies here have them, if you have emergency road service, that they have the same, or my experience has been, they have the same that the PD has, because they want to use the ones that have been vetted and already approved.
Very good. I know a gentleman had stood up in the back and waved his hand. Did you want to come to the?
I don't have anything. I just
Okay.
was asking the question about the rotation, so if there was any questions about it, I was going to answer that.
Well, please come forward, state your name and the record service you represent.
My name is Josh Cannon. I represent Ernie's Record Service. I'm the general manager there, if there's any questions. So, and Rick Dodd is with Tillery's Towing. He's here as well. We're two of
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you stepping forward. I think the point I was trying to get to is now moot. It sounds as though in many years there hasn't been any issue that I was bringing up, so that no longer is a concern, but I do appreciate you being available.
Correct, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sounds like the rotation works great, and that when an accident occurs, somebody on that list is available, and that's the most important part.
So for all of the
And they're
ones of
vetted.
us- sorry. So all the ones of us that are on the list, whatever, the police department, county, state, they always take first precedent over anything else that we have going on. So, you know, myself or Tillery's or Holcomb's, whatever, we all have several drivers working at a time, and there's always one that's going to be available. If that one's not available and a city call, state call, whatever comes up, then myself's available, or Rick Dodd's available, David Holcomb's available. Somebody's available to go work that call to make sure that the city officers or the county officers, whatever, are not sitting out there waiting for, 30, 45 minutes or whatever to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions of the gentleman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. That completes the action items for 2023. We're now on the Board of Directors' items for discussion. Any items for discussion by directors? Director Garcia.
I just wanted to give a big thank you to the Women of Prayer for all the beautiful Christmas cards. It really means a lot. The messages that they've sent us, and having lost loved ones right before the last two Christmases, this is very much appreciated from you, all of you, and everyone else that sent us these lovely cards, and wishing Mayor, the board, all of the city, and all of our residents a Merry Christmas.
Very good. Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. This now, closes out this year. So this is 1 year that I have under my belt serving as city director for District 4. And I just want to share, with those in my district in this city that it is an honor and a privilege to serve you. I loved this first year, and I plan to continue to grow in my services that I provide to those in our city, and then also plan to grow in my ability to work with fellow board directors and our mayor and city staff. I appreciate all the hard work that all of us do on this board and the city staff, and I look forward to bringing in a great new year, and I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items for discussion? Director Trustee.
Mayor, thank you. I know this is not an agenda meeting, but I would like for us to consider a time when we can finalize our discussion of the Title II, Chapter 1 information that we started, and we've had a couple of sessions on. That just very important, I think, and I think we should try to get to it as early as we possibly can in the new year. I'm not suggesting another session this year, but I would like to get to it just as early as we can. Yes.
Very good. Will do. All right. There's no other items for discussion. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We do have a public commentary session, so Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to offer the last motion of the year to adjourn.
Have the last second of the year.
Second.
We got the last second of the year, the last vote of the year. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye,
same sign.
because I could be the last vote of the year. So.
No. We are adjourned, but we stay close by because we have public